There we go. Welcome to the Healthy with Heartland podcast, the show built around bringing value to the Mid-Atlantic and growing. We're committed to helping families eating cleaner, safer, healthier foods. I'm Matt Balducci, two-time TEDx speaker, ex-bodybuilder, keyword X, and father, husband, business growth expert. And today we're super excited. We're actually having a special co-host and guest, one of our senior wellness consultants, Zach Hirsh. And one of the cool things I just want to say before I give you guys his background is just welcome aboard, my man. You ready?
I'm ready. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're gonna have some fun.
Awesome.
We're gonna have some fun today with Zach. So just to give you a quick background on Zach, he has helped thousands, literally thousands of families over the last 4 years eat cleaner, safer, healthier food through our company and our service. So again, if you know Zach, give him a shout out today on the comments below. Oh yeah, right? And basically a couple quick things about Zach that maybe you don't know out there, especially some of his clients, is that he's an ex-D1 athlete, played soccer. And he can talk a little bit about that. He's a father, I was going to say bodybuilder as well, but
Haven't gotten on the stage yet. So
there you go. And a huge biohacker. So we're going to talk a little bit about biohacking today, and we'll go into kind of our topic of choice. But I'm pumped to have Zach here. I've worked with him actually just for a short period, but through that time, I've gotten to know him pretty well, and I'm pumped to have him on as our guest and co-host today. But I'm going to turn it over before we jump into me and Zach jumping into some of our biohacking and stress management today. I'm going to throw it over to Simon and Shannon for our Heartland announcements.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. I'm Shannon. I'm one of the creative directors behind the podcast. Just want to let everyone know that if you haven't already, follow us on Facebook, check us out on Instagram, and also make sure to connect with us on LinkedIn. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube, also you can find us at youtube.com/heartlandhomefoods. Which is pretty awesome. So I know we've been talking about it pretty much for the past few weeks, but we have an all-new interactive webinar, which is live on our website. So go ahead and check that out. It's heartlandfoods.com/HF webinar. We definitely recommend sharing that with friends and family, letting them know all about what we do here at Heartland. So for the month of September, we have an exciting reorder as well. Our special this month is going to be 4 butcher cut steaks from Creekstone Farms, which we all love. So that's a fantastic special. Make sure to call us at 800-492-5592, or you can email us at reorders@heartlandfoods.com.
Try the coulettes. I had 2 last night, and they were delicious.
Those are definitely some of everyone's favorites. So quick shout out to our South Carolina team, and let us know, comment below, and let us know where you guys are tuning in from. We'd love to connect from you, answer any questions that you have, and we'll be giving some shout outs throughout the show. So I will go ahead and I will turn it over to Matt and Zach.
Just
awesome.
So you know, Zach has a lot of fans in here right now. Tina Clark's like, Zach, exclamation points.
So you know what's going on.
And even Justin is live as well. He says Zach is a powerhouse,
Justin.
wealth of knowledge. So no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure, Zach. You
Let's
ready?
do it.
So
Let's do it.
real quick, guys, I want to recap our last 3 weeks. So we're pumped. We actually had a really cool podcast meeting yesterday. We had the mastermind together and basically looked at the next year. We started planning out. So anybody out there that is in our family, our Heartland family, that wants to be on our podcast, you need to reach out to us directly. Like I said, we'll interview you very briefly, and we'll see if we can get you on over the next few months here. And we'll talk about our special guest next week, which is really, really exciting. But I want to talk about the last 3 weeks, right? So on our first podcast, if you have not checked it out, we interviewed our co-host, Justin Frieshtat, right? And after that, we interviewed Jerry, our owner, and then last week, Amanda Anduiza. There we go, got it.
Yeah.
And, all the fun last names. But basically, if you haven't had a chance to check those out, all three are extremely valuable from a knowledge standpoint. And I would recommend, if you want to get hyped up and motivated, go check out Jerry's podcast from 2 weeks ago. But I'm excited. Oh, yeah, drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
So today, the reason we brought Zach on, specifically outside of just being a overall badass, right, is that, from a biohacking standpoint and a stress management standpoint, it's kind of cool. I remember when I first started here, I'm a huge nut when it comes to, the biology of how your brain works and your body works, how food affects you, but not just food, sleep, stress, nutrition, everything from working out to just taking a walk. How does that all impact your day, your energy levels, your performance, right? Which is what we all want to do, is just be high performing and successful and have a great life, okay? And when I first came on, actually Zach and one of our other senior wellness consultant, Matt West, basically felt like I found my, my tribe, if you will, where, they already are ingrained in the biohacking world, which, we won't go down that path too much today, because I know for some people they might not know what biohacking is.
We'll touch on it in terms of the fact of, what kind of things people can do in their lives to, make the quality of life better, what kind of biohacking is, and how everything you do is essentially a biohack. I mean, from the food you put in your body to the exercise that you do to the, the stress management, meditation that we'll get into here. It's all a biohack. It's how do I make the physiology of my body better at the end of the day.
So with that, let's dive into that, right? So Zach, we wanted you on here today, ex D1 athlete, a father, biohacker, you've helped thousands of families out there eat healthier, cleaner food. So explain a little bit about why you came on board here, and also maybe a definition of what biohacking means to you. I know you just gave a brief one, but what does that mean to you?
Well, I've been with Heartland 4.5 years, and it's been an awesome ride. And really, it's my ability to get out there every day and help families just eat better quality food, know where their food's coming from, and do it conveniently as well. And really, whether people think, hey, I think a big thing in the food industry of what's causing a lot of the issues and health-wise, and especially in the given climate we are with COVID, is what people are putting in their body, the fact that we live indoors so much of our lives, the quality of our sleep. So many people have issues with that. So it's how do we take steps to improve the little aspects of our lives. And that's kind of, then when you look into it, you bring in the science of it into it, things like photobiomodulation, red light therapy, which is really what when Matt started here, he was like, "Oh, you guys are into red light therapy," and because not a lot of people know what that is, and we'll touch on little things like that, things like fasting as well. It's creating stressors in the body, good stressors that ultimately have a positive impact in the overall.
I love it. So the big thing is again, as you can see from Zach studying over the last probably decade. I mean, I'm guessing right over the last 10 years or so, or 5 years. When did it begin where you started really getting to kind of the super health, the biology behind how everything works?
So, I mean, it's really been the last 5 years or so.
Got it.
Has really been, where I went out and seeking the knowledge, and the knowledge is out there. It's just people just have to go find it, and it really, working at Heartland has kind of given me that ability to kind of follow my passion and to help other people as well.
I love it.
And it's been fantastic.
I love it. So what we're going to do today, for everyone that's watching, and if you want, I recommend you share this, guys, and here's why. Again, I don't, without being a self-promoter here, I've given 2 TEDx talks over the last 2 years, or actually last year in 2019 on stress management. And, when we brought Zach on today and for myself with us basically talking about this topic, I want to kind of paint you guys a picture of what the world looks like right now. And I know everybody's living in a different type of scenario. So there's some people out there that have not been impacted by COVID whatsoever, but then there's people obviously out there that have lost their jobs, or they have, they're doing distance learning with their children right now. They're navigating kind of this new world that we're entering into. And one of the keys that, I want everyone out there to understand that it's okay, right? It's going to be okay, number one. But two is that stress is controllable. And a lot of people don't realize that. But stress is actually just an evolutionary biological standpoint of how we've actually become where we are today. So we need it. Like Zach mentioned, it's called hormesis, if you want to look that term up, hormesis. And what that simply means is low doses of good stress equals amazing biological benefits, which is hence biohacking. So I'll give a couple of examples, and then I'll let Zach start us off by picking whatever he wants to talk about with it. And then we'll dive into a couple stress management tips for you at the end here that will help you through this time. Okay. So, some of the hormesis that I've studied is cold therapy, breathing, meditation, fasting, weightlifting, and again, as you guys can hear, all those different things going into a sauna. So heat therapy, right, which is, getting really, really hot, really, really cold. And you might be listening to this going, how does this affect my stress levels? How does this help me, live a healthier life? But is there anything in there, Zach, that you're like, man, I really want to dive into today and give some knowledge on?
Well, I think a big aspect is inflammation and reducing inflammation in the body. And, they've really connected inflammation to, everything out there, being everything from cancer to heart disease to, lowering the immune system, which again, then kind of follows into, sickness and disease. So it's really about how do we lower the inflammation in the body. And all inflammation really is the body's immune response to something it thinks is negative, and that can be stress, meaning you had a hard day, anxiety, depression. It all creates inflammation in the body. So things like cold showers, meditation, breathing, it really helps you control that inflammation in the body, ultimately leading to just a better stage of living, really.
I love it. And again, guys, if you're not really versed into what inflammation is, I highly recommend you go Google it. And what Zach's diving into is both of us kind of follow some of the same health gurus out there, if you want to use the word guru, right? But and inflammation is one of the key worst things that you can have in your life if it's not taken care of. And with what we do with being in the business of food, right? Maybe, Zach, you want to dive into how food specifically does create inflammation if it's, processed sugars or processed food, and how even our meat compared to maybe the grocery store's meat helps with people's inflammation and keeping it, lower.
Definitely. Like I said, inflammation is the body's response to, like, you get a cut, right? It swells up, that's inflammation, right? Now, what so many people experience on their within their body in a daily life is chronic inflammation, and that's put into place by all the processed food that people are eating, what's been done to the food, sugar, and how your body responds to that, right? If we want to dive real deep into it, people eating tons of sugar, and you can go out and look and see the quantities of sugar that people are consuming now as opposed to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and it's astronomical. And that's just because it's in everything, from your high fructose corn syrup, everything is ultra processed, and what that's doing is actually creating immune responses within the blood vessels, right? You're eating all this sugar, inflammatory cytokines happen, and that's where your blood vessels start getting filled with, what everyone looks at as cholesterol. And what is it leading to so much of the heart disease, cancer, things like that.
So good. This is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So, one, I'm learning more about Zach's knowledge level right now, which is amazing. And the funny part is, just so everyone knows, is that these questions that I'm asking him, we did not prep for. So it's I'm throwing him basically some pretty fastballs and some curveballs right now, and he's rocking them. So, and I knew it would. So basically the thing I want you guys to take from this is something that, I looked into as I started doing research and, talking to Zach, talking to Matt, some of the guys that I know that really, really look into how things affect them biologically. And if you heard of one thing that Zach talked about, which is sugar, the other two S's that I really focus on, and we'll talk a little bit about this right now, is sleep and stress, and we'll get to stress last. And the reason I want to get to that is I'm going to talk about two techniques you can use today that will actually help you get through the next, rest of 2020. And but let's dive into sleep a little bit, Zach. I know that with our company, Our goal long term, just so everyone knows, is we want to be the one-stop shop for health, which is, cleaner food, which we already have, right? The best food out there.
That's right.
Clean sleep, which if you don't know this out there, if you're looking for a mattress, we actually work with a phenomenal company, Carico, and I have the mattress at my house. It's a biohacking mattress. It actually allows you to ground. Which maybe we'll talk about here in a second too.
I think it's stress management too. You know what I mean? Getting out there, the grounding is definitely another aspect of biohacking, and it's something you can do there.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what grounding is, it just simply means being present with the earth. So stepping outside with bare feet, which some people, if they follow me on Facebook, they'll notice in my story, I walk barefoot. Anytime I'm at my house, my kids and I walk barefoot. We probably look like, what I was going to say hillbillies, but what's the other hippies from that, but in reality, at the end of the day, the reason I'm doing it is specifically to de-stress and bring down my inflammation, which, if anybody's ever went to the beach and you just laid on the beach, right? And afterward, right, the negative ions from the water, and I know we're throwing out a lot of technical terms here, but the negative ions from the water and just the grounding from laying in the sand, you feel amazing, right? That's what you want to get every single day, and you can do that when you're sleep, in your sleep. And we also want to have clean water, right, and clean air. And we want to be that all-encompassing place that you come to biohack your house, biohack your life, which is really cool, and live a really true healthy life. So Zach, let's dive into a little bit of sleep, maybe some tips that you can give people out there right now that they can really look into. Obviously, they can get a really phenomenal mattress, but let's say they're not in the market for that and they just want, to get a better night's sleep. And why should people, focus on this?
Well, I mean, sleep is how the body, essentially rejuvenates, right? Your brain shrinks while you sleep, and that's because of the reduction of inflammation, right? There aren't the outside stressors going on. So I think really some of the things that people can actively do is turn off the technology. Shut these off. An hour, as long as you can before, as far as you can before you go to bed. Red light therapy, or not red light therapy. Blue light blocking glasses is a big one that people are doing now. That looks at when we look at TVs, screens, things like that, our computer screens. It messes with our eyes, which ultimately messes with how our body thinks in terms of circadian rhythm. So if we're watching TV at night, computer screens at night, our body's going to have a hard time actually knowing that it's nighttime because of that artificial light that we're seeing. So shutting things off at night, turning off, if you listen to Dr. Berg, he goes crazy with it and talks, you should shut your power breakers off at night in the house. A little extreme, but, it's kind of just shows there the implications of things like Wi-Fi signals. And that's what, like, the grounding in the mattress helps to do. It helps to alleviate some of the electromagnetic fields that bother us when we sleep, from Wi-Fi, from cell phones, things like that.
I love it.
So we got a message from Carlene Valentine. She said, Zach Hirsh, I need that info on the mattress.
Okay.
It's huge. She
cool,
wants to know.
Carlene, we can talk about
some
that.
Grounding.
Awesome.
It is amazing, by the way. So again, it's awesome when you sell products that are just absolutely amazing and you believe in them, because if you do the research, it's just unheard of. So I'm going to give just a real quick summary on sleep, guys, and this is super important for stress management right now. And again, this is kind of the overall theme is stress management. And I know we're going down a lot of rabbit holes today, which is really fun and exciting. But when it comes to stress, guys, and controlling it, the first thing you got to control is your sleep. And I know right now with what's going on in the world, where maybe you have a little bit more anxiety these days, maybe, you did lose your job, or maybe somebody in the house is having to take on more work from the kids being home longer during the day, and maybe you're trying to balance work and enjoy your life like you used to, and you're not getting that same type of break you used to. A couple quick things you can do that are free that will improve your sleep instantly at night is, number one, Zach already explained, is get rid of all light. Okay, make your room as dark as possible. So that means if you have if you have a alarm in the room, get rid of it. Right? Anything that produces any sort of blue light is actually affecting you and putting off EMFs, which is basically just electromagnetic, frequencies that are creating, issues in messing with your circadian rhythm. Right? So make it black, like literally black out your room where there's no light coming in from the outside. You don't have street lights coming in. It's just black. Okay, you want it pitch dark. Okay. Number two is make it cold. Okay, so I know that sounds crazy. Some people really like this, get cozied up in their blankets, but you actually want to sleep when it's a little bit colder. And I can't remember the exact temperature. I don't know if you remember anything from your research, but I believe it's anywhere in the like 60 to 65 degree range is really where you want your room. And then the last,
so nice.
Oh, yeah. It feels really. It's tough to get used to, but then it takes about a week or two. But then you'll see that you're going to get into deeper sleep, which we'll talk about really quickly here. And the last thing is, and again, we might not dive into meditation today, but I recommend taking 5-10 minutes and just doing a quick meditation before bed, clearing your mind, right? And if you don't know what meditation is, it just literally means sitting there by yourself, which is really challenging these days with how much information we're getting. And it's super easy to be addicted to our phones, which I know I am. And it's just one of those things where you need to separate yourself for 10 minutes from everything going on and just be, right? Yep. And I know that sounds woo-woo, but those are 3 easy things you can do that are free and that are improve your sleep, which, by the way, if you improve your sleep, you improve your stress levels, okay? And the cool factor of that, though, is if you do those things and you improve your sleep, basically what you're going to find is you're going to wake up more energized, less inflammation, right? You're going to make healthier decisions during the day. You're going to have better workouts. Everything starts with sleep. The last tip I'm going to give on sleep before we move on to the next topic is that if you do have a chance, I recommend reading 2 books. If you want a simple read, I recommend reading a book by Sean Stevenson. It's just called Sleep Smarter. Very good book. Second book on sleep is a little bit deeper, and if you really want to get into biology, really, really challenging, it's Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. Extremely 2 books that have changed my life on sleep. And I have 2 little ones at home, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not perfect at this at all. But when you understand what's happening, you will actually start changing your decisions before you go to bed. And when you feel the effect in the morning and you start seeing the difference in weight loss and anything you're trying to accomplish, maybe you don't eat that cookie anymore at night, whatever it is, you're going to see an overall impact. Sleep is actually the most important thing you can pay attention to and track, even more than working out or eating healthy, which again I know some people are going to say controversial, right? But it's the truth. If you focus on that, you're going to eat healthier. You're probably going to have better workouts. You're going to be less inflamed and less stressed. So,
we can kind of touch on something with biohacking there, and just kind of different some things that people can use that are out there. Even something like the Oura rings. If anyone's heard of the Oura rings, it's basically a ring that you wear on your finger that tracks sleep. It tracks heart rate variability. It will show you the different cycles of your sleep, because ultimately what you're looking for when sleeping is going through full and complete sleep cycles. So it's, from your deep sleep to your REM sleep and then back through those cycles. So some people out there will say it's not necessarily how long you sleep, but it's more the quality of your sleep and making sure you're getting through at least, I think it's 5 sleep cycles per night. Each sleep cycle is roughly about 50 minutes or so, they say, start to finish. So things like the Oura rings, where you can track, they have an app, web app where you can go in and see, hey, how did I sleep last night? It'll kind of grade you. I have the basic Samsung Galaxy Watch, which it tracks it. I don't know how accurate, but it's always something that you can go back to, make changes, of things that you might do before bedtime. Hey, let me try not eating, an hour before I go to bed this week and see how it registers with my sleep. And so those are some other little biohacking things that people can use technology for to, better improve their overall sleep.
It's awesome, guys. I have an Oura ring right now. I'm not wearing it. I'm actually getting a replacement. Mine died. I've had it for 2 years. Phenomenal. You can also get a Whoop watch or, Fitbits. There's so many different opportunities out there. Maybe something you already have in your household does it. But like Zach's saying, anything you track is always going to improve whatever you're doing, and you can start actually looking at the variables and how they affect your sleep. And again, I guess since we're in this rabbit hole, it's so freaking important. I'm so into making sure you have quality sleep. I guess 2 real quick tips is, if you can, set a bedtime. Okay. So many people out there do not have a bedtime, and I know that sounds weird, right? But if you don't have a bedtime, you can't control how many cycles of sleep you get, which I think the exact number is actually you want to have 4 a night for 5 days a week minimum. So 6 hours of sleep, essentially 4 nights a week, which some people are like, whoa, wait, I thought you're supposed to get 7.5. Right. You should get 7.5 hours of sleep. But what a lot of people do is they plan for 8. And by planning for 8, they're actually miscalculating out their actual cycle. So that's why you might wake up in the middle when your app goes off or your phone goes off. You might wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle and then you're a little groggy, right? So think of it from an hour and a half increments, okay, 50 minutes, but hour and a half increments where you're tracking yourself. So if you go to bed at 10 o'clock, which is what I recommend, by 10 p.m., and you wake up at, call it 4 a.m., which you don't have to do that. You'll actually be really
Jocko Willing,
Jocko and all the Tom Bialu, all the big time motivational guys out there. But the big thing is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is actually the best possible 4 hours of sleep you can get every single night. And there's so many people out there staying up way too late. They're watching TV and they don't realize what that's actually doing to them. And what's going on for the males out there, right, and females, is that during those 4 hours you get more HGH that comes through, which in turn improves your muscle mass, which again we won't go into today, but you want to improve your muscle mass, right?
But again, it also comes into hormone regulation.
Yeah.
And I think that also ties into food you eat, exercise, stress, because all those ultimately are going to affect your hormones. And, I feel that so many people today have, there are a lot of men out there that have low testosterone, women that estrogen levels are totally off. And it just is. It's because of the daily, the daily stress in our lives, what we eat, things like that. And that's what we're trying to help people with is really just optimizing health as a whole, and kind of I look at it as a collective, right? It's all the little things that you can do that kind of overall really lead to that great quality of life.
I love it. So again, without going too far, check those books out. As you can see, we can probably actually do an entire podcast just on sleep itself because it is so important. But let's move into a little bit more into our business model, right? Which is helping people eat healthier, cleaner, safer food. So, and we already went down the path of, inflammation and how processed sugars, create that in processed foods. But maybe a little bit different on, why it's super important, Zach, to know where your meat's coming from a, a raising standpoint, from a proper raised animal to, the, supply chain that it's going through and all the chemicals and all that. How does that affect people right now? And, how does that affect their not only their inflammation, but also just stress levels and everything else? So how is food biohacking a biohack, basically?
I mean, it is. It's I would say the original biohack. It's what you put in your body is an investment. It's either going to help you or hurt you.
I know.
There you go.
100%.
We look at it as and think of it this way, right? If you eat better quality food, do you think your blood work, your numbers, your minerals, electrolytes are going to look better? Yes. So we kind of see that in terms of the animals that we are eating, right? When you have animals that are raised properly, raised on pasture, not given antibiotics, hormones, steroids, all that junk there, chemicals, preservatives. Well, you got an animal that's eaten properly, eaten naturally, having a healthy diet for the animal, right? Therefore, what do we end up with, right? The awesome products that we provide to families that are higher in nutrient density, that have omega-3 ratios where they should be, not flip-flopped because they're, in a feedlot or confined for a year eating corn and soybean.
Yeah. So just real quick on that, while we're talking about food and you guys were talking about stress, I mean, can we go into, like when you're talking about a feedlot, how stress affects the animals and then, affects like basically how we're eating as well?
Yep.
So.
No, it definitely does. And it's funny, like, a lot of my families out there, have heard me say, whether you're all, PETA save the animals or not, right? Poorly treated, poorly cared for, poorly harvested animals just kill the quality. And that's why we work solely with farms that take so much pride in how the animals are raised. Creekstone, with all the cattle, minimizing the stress on the animal. You don't have adrenaline hormones. That animal's not living in a state of heightened awareness its whole life, which really, I mean, you can almost taste it in two different types of steak, we'll say, of animals that are raised in completely different environments.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, it's nuts because before I came on board here at Heartland, I had no idea the impact of what I was buying the organic meat in at the Wegmans, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But basically, the big thing is two things I took from Zach here is number one, it's the original biohack, right?
That was huge.
That is freaking awesome, right? And what I think he really meant by that is, again, you're carrying an overall theme is food is medicine, and a lot of people out there are taking pills and different things. Not saying that you shouldn't, but basically what's happening is we're replacing what we can actually go out there and get, which is just food and eating healthy and eating clean. And instead we're replacing it now with putting more chemicals into our body, which yes, does help. But in the grand scheme of things, the original biohack, which was just when the pills did not exist, how did they get through all this stuff that we're going through right now, especially mental health wise?
Yep.
Okay. So I love that. And again, processed sugars, guys, is a huge one. You know, I'll tell you right now, it's my number one weakness is, cookies, donuts, ice cream. You know, if it wasn't so bad for you, I would eat. That's what I would eat 3 times a day because it's so damn delicious. But the one thing you guys need to realize out there with food, especially in the grocery store, and this will be a quick tip for you, and we'll have another podcast in the future on how to actually go shop at the grocery store because I think that's vitally important to understand how they set up the grocery store psychologically. One real quick side fact here that freaks me out, I have 2 little ones, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, is that if you go into the cereal aisle, I want everyone to notice this as they go into the grocery store, all the boxes have the animals, right? Tony the Tigers or whoever they are, all their eyes are actually darted down and they're facing down, so when the kids are walking through the aisle, the animals or the mascots or whatever you want to call them are actually looking directly at the children, and it's basically a psychological instinct. The other big thing about the grocery store people don't realize is that we actually did not, as humans, we were actually colorblind for a long time, and the only reason we got our sight for color, whatever you want to call it, we can see color now, is because of fruit. And we needed to know when fruit was ripened enough, so that way we can actually eat that fruit. And we knew that it was healthy for us and that it didn't poison us, right? And now if you go in the grocery store, guess what? All the colors of all the processed candies, processed cereals, anything that's processed is the colors of fruit, yellows, reds, greens. It's freaky. And what it does is it actually biologically turns on the hormones and the chemicals, and it makes, and you want it more so than walking through the aisle. So with that being said, when you do grocery shop, real quick tip, stay on the outside. You probably heard that before. Right. Stay on the outside. That's where all the healthy food is, and don't go into the freaking aisle. Stay as fast and out of there as you can.
And what's crazy is that the grocery stores, if you go back 50 years, 40% of the food that's in a grocery store right now didn't even exist. It wasn't made, right? Because it's all made in a lab. If you don't shop the inside of the grocery store doesn't actually make any money, because that's where they make their money, is on the ultra-processed food. And it's crazy to think, because the food that's ultra-processed runs through the labs, is created in a lab for people to eat, right? Is actually more profitable to them than the food around the outside of the store, meaning the produce, the meats, the clean food that doesn't have all the junk in it.
Yeah.
It's freaky, guys. It's freaky. So again, if you know this is all it is education. Once you know it, then the second step is actually, we were just joking, me and Zach and I were joking about it. Quarantine definitely got me, gained about 20 pounds over the last 6 months, but it's all the stuff I already know, which was just eating a little bit more of the baked goods that my wife, babe, stop baking stuff, please. So with that being said, let's move into a little bit of stress, right? So, from a standpoint of stress management, again, I want to paint the picture right now. If you're watching this right now, I'll tell you, most people are chronically stressed out there right now. And there's been a study. This was when I did my talk in 2019. 44% of Americans are chronically stressed. 44%. So that was in 2019 before COVID hit. So I guess the question is now is, what is that percentage? And when you're nervous when you go outside, that you might catch this this crazy thing that can harm you. Okay, and again, everything we're talking about today is to improve your immunity, right? Yep. Which is what's really harming people in the world today with what's going on. And again, we don't want to go down that path and talk about that too in depth, but the higher immune system you have, the higher likelihood you have to be healthy and successful from. If you did unfortunately roll the dice and catch it, you're going to be a higher chance of survival, and also, basically not even getting it. So with that being said, let's dive into stress a little bit. Okay. So this message right now is for anyone out there, okay, that's going through something that, they're not used to right now, right? Maybe your life was on autopilot for a while and things were going really well, and then this just kind of shocked you out of your normal daily habits, and you got distance learning with the children, which again, I have 2 little ones. I'm thankful that every day that they're not in school right now. They're only 2 and 4. and I wouldn't even know what we would do. My wife would have to basically, leave what she's doing, and come home to, to do that, to take care of the children. So if you're out there right now and you're dealing with that, or you're dealing with financial stress, or you're dealing with anything out there that's putting you in a position where you're not getting quality sleep, or you're just overly stressed, we're going to go through some quick biohacks, and I'm going to give you a couple tangible, logical free things you can do that will help you, okay, get through these next 90 days and hopefully next year. So, but before I do that, and before I go over that, I want to talk to Zach a little bit about stress. So what things, Zach, have you done, or you've researched on, how to control stress, and is there anything that you can give our audience that might benefit them?
I think meditation is definitely one of the biggest things people can do. Number one, it's free. And it does take time to learn. It's definitely hard to kind of just be inside be with yourself, slow your mind down. But it's really one of the best things that you can do. If you wake up every morning and start with 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes of just quiet. Don't put the cell phone away. Have that 5 minutes to yourself where you're just kind of concentrating, slowing the mind down. Because everyone, we live this fast-paced lifestyle. Everyone's mind is running 100 miles a minute. But it's really the importance of slowing yourself down, kind of getting outside and increasing that time. So you start with 5 minutes a day, right? Do that for a week. Fantastic. You're going to learn a lot. It's really going to help. And then the second week, hey, bump it to 7 minutes. Bump it to 10 minutes a month later. If everyone could take 10 minutes a day, forget that, 5 minutes a day. If everyone could take that, when they wake up in the morning and just kind of be quiet, be within themselves, people would see such a difference in their overall days. They would have more motivation, the stress would go down, and then ultimately all it leads back to is boosting that immune system.
Which is huge, guys. And again, man, so here's what I want you to take away from this whole podcast today, okay? Biggest thing before we get into the stress management. These are the people that are coming out to meet with you at your house. Myself, Zach, Justin, Amanda, and you haven't even met the rest of our team yet, right? Go to our website and see their backgrounds. We care. The reason we're in this industry specifically, the reason I'm here today is our product is literally what I want to sell, right? We are selling improving your, immunity, right? Which is really important right now. We're talking about, improving what you're putting into your body, which is decreasing your stress levels, right? We're talking about how to improve your sleep by eating healthier, right? So that way you're not eating the processed sugar at night before you go to bed, which then in turn turns on your brain and you can't fall asleep, and then you get crappy sleep, which then in turn creates more stress, and then you
cycle.
And then you eat a donut, right?
Yep.
So, it's just overall, as you're listening to Zach talk, one, it's 4 years of being with the company, and the cool part is you can see the passion we have. We want people to change their health lives. Literally, we want you to live longer. I want you to live longer, right? And this is who's coming out to meet with you. And yes, we work in the food business, but at the end of the day, we're a health and wellness company, and we're growing like crazy right now simply because of our team, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's because we only hire people that care, okay? We only hire people that this is how they live their life. This is what they live and breathe. It's literally in my ad that I put up on Indeed when I recruit. It's literally one of the top things, and when I interview somebody, if they don't live and breathe it, it's my non-negotiable, right? So with that being said, guys, if you're interested in learning about our service, and if you're a customer of ours already, we need more referrals, as always. And anytime you refer someone over to us, this is who they're meeting. This is the quality of knowledge level that they're getting. It's not just some random person showing up and saying, "Hey, here's some steak for you," right? Yeah. We're actually going to tell you how it affects your body. Now, again, for some people out there, if that doesn't matter to you, it's okay. Let's talk about the taste.
Still
right?
tastes really
At the
good.
end of the day, it's amazing tasting food, and whether it's people are coming to us because of the health aspect, or the health aspect is kind of an added benefit to the convenience of what we do and the taste.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk stress management about, just really quick on a segue here, convenience of our product, right? So, you're busy out there right now, and you're stressed, and let's be blunt, we all eat a lot. We eat, 3 to 4 times a day easily. We're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner for some people.
Some people.
I fast.
Unless you're fasting.
Exactly.
And then we can segue into the
which is good. We'll go into some time restricted feeding or some intermittent fasting, which is a huge buzzword right now. But the big thing is our product guys having 6 months of bulk order sitting downstairs in your basement or your garage of healthy food that literally has a 2-year guaranteed shelf life that you can swap out at any time. Okay. And again, my goal here is not to go overly, pitchy here with you guys, but I do want you to understand that people buy from us because it saves stress, right? It's actually a stress management tip, which is you don't have to go to the grocery store. You don't have to worry about what you're cooking that night, all simply by the convenience of our quick defrost, 10-minute or less. And, I know Zach has worked with thousands of families. So, Zach, what would you say is the number one reason families come onto our service? Like, why do they decide to hire us to basically be their, do their meats, vegetables, grocery package, all that? Like, why us?
I think families shop with us for, a whole myriad of reasons. And, it really boils down to the convenience of what we do. It's you're having a grocery store in your garage. I have a better selection of food in my garage than virtually all grocery stores out there. So it's, the convenience of what we do, the fact that their food, they can know where it's all coming from, how those animals are raised, feel better about what you feed your family. Because at the end of the day, you're either going to set your kids up for success by what you're feeding them or allowing them to eat, or again, it's an investment, right? Or you're going to set them off on the path to, diabetes, heart disease, which is the numbers are just astronomical. So I think that, when families look at us and what we do, it's our food tastes fantastic. You're going to get better tasting food than going out and paying $60 for a steak, and just being able to do it conveniently. And it's the peace of mind, especially now with what's going on in the world. Stay out of the grocery store for another trip a week. Shop from your garage, shop from your basement with better quality food that's ultimately going to make you healthier at the end of the day.
Huge.
Boom.
And how important do you guys think it is, like being a D1 athlete, right? Coming from that, like how important do you think that whole thing is as far as like eating right? Did you eat right as a D1 athlete?
I definitely looked at it when I got to school. It was definitely, we had, nutritionists and they definitely gave us some more information.
Yeah.
Hey, as a freshman in college, like, did we eat that great? It
Yeah.
was okay. Did we still have, chicken, fried chicken on the weekends or whatever? Yes. But, we were definitely more aware of, and I think, especially nowadays, younger and younger athletes are more aware of, and coaches, trainers are beginning to really implement that with their athletes and just showing how important it is. Okay. Where 2003, 2004, it wasn't as
prevalent.
Prevalent as kind of talked about. Yeah, we kind of talked about eating better, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I think today more people actually are implementing in younger athletes as well.
Yeah. I think possibly because they notice a performance change, right? Like 100%. I think there's Tom Brady and all these athletes that are like longevity-wise, and you look at what they're doing, it's because they're eating right.
Exactly.
It's crazy. I mean, Tom Brady, LeBron James, they all spend, I think, $1.5 million. Now, again, obviously we don't all have that luxury, right? But they're each spending this is how important it is for performance, right? They're spending $1.5 million on their health a year. Literally, if you go back 20 years ago, you would never see an athlete doing that because the knowledge wasn't there. And the cool part, guys, is all you have to do now, if you really want to learn about this stuff, is go to Google.
It's there. Boom. The information is out there. You just have to go find it. And that's, it's all there. And it's just such a wealth of information. Everyone out there.
It's so cool. It's so cool these days. And again, I wish I had the knowledge level I have now. When Zach and I both played, college sports, we definitely did not eat healthy.
That's what I think is so interesting now is like when you look back and you talk to a lot of like athletes that were, previously in college and stuff, and now how they're kind of like, dialed into, what you're eating and all that kind of stuff. Like how many people back then would have done, what could you have done with an even better, knowledge of what you're eating and that kind of stuff, like your performance wise.
How much greater could it actually have been?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. And again, it's just the knowledge wasn't there, right? It just wasn't there. And there was some faulty knowledge back then, which we won't go into today. Lots of bad.
And it is an ever evolving process, but
exactly.
Cleaner, safer, healthier foods. That's what that's what we as a company are about. And really what kind of we're talking about here with performance.
Yep.
Perfect. So the last thing, guys, is we got about 5 more minutes here, is I want to talk really quick about stress management, okay? I know that was our topic here, and I want everyone out there to take a pen and paper out, okay? We're going to do what's called a stress budget, okay? And I think this might help some people out there, and the reason I'm so passionate around this is this changed my life, and I won't go into my story today, but basically, from a stress standpoint, it's vitally important to control it. So the first thing I want you to do is, again, take out a sheet of paper, okay, if you have one, and I want you to draw some, basically you're going to draw 5 columns, okay, columns, okay? And the first one is what is stressing you out currently, okay? We're going to talk about that in a second. The second one, okay, and we're going to do this very quickly, okay? This is going to be a quick 2-3 minute thing. But I think this is going to help a lot of people. I was blessed when I was, in my early 20s to have someone train me on this. I used to own a couple businesses in my early 20s. Lived a very high-stress life. Awesome. Lived a high-stress life at a young age, but it was good stress. And the problem is if you don't know how to control it, then you're going to end up you're not going to live as long as you want. So stress is the first column. Okay, what's stressing you out? We're going to talk about what goes in there. Number 2, okay, is it in your control? Okay, is it in your control? Okay, and it's just going to be a Y or an N, yes or no. Number 3 column, okay, is time or money. So T or money, put a money sign. All right, and then the next column on there that I want you to write is a rating of 1 to 100. Okay, and then last thing is implementation. Okay. So from this standpoint, you have this now on your sheet of paper. The first column is stressors, okay? It doesn't have to be a huge stressor, just so you guys know. So for me, cutting the freaking grass is a stressor. I hate it. Like, I absolutely hate it. My wife knows I hate it. And when she married me, I don't know, I told her straight up, I'm like, I'm not cutting the damn grass, babe. And she still tries to get me to cut the grass. We'll talk about that. But it could be it could be as basic as doing the dishes or whatever it is, okay? All the way up to, I just lost my job. All right, I'm in $50,000 of debt. I can't pay my student loans. My son just got, and these are not what's going on in my life, but these are things that could be going on currently, right, in your life right now that are super stressors. Okay, and I want you to write everything. Some people are gonna have a list of 5. Some people are gonna have a list of 50. The reason what this does is it starts putting this on paper, okay? And then you can start actually strategizing around removing these things from your life. So let's move into the second one. Is it in your control? Okay, so let's just hypothetically say, and I'm going to use a very hardcore example here, and I hope no one gets offended by this, but let's just say that right now your significant other is in the hospital due to COVID. Okay, that's a freaking stressor. But is there any outside of being there for that person or loving them or whatever it is it really in your control? Was it your fault? No, right? So you got to put a no. It's out of your control. So now you can remove that from your list. Now again, cutting the grass, is that in my control? Yes, I can cut the damn grass. Okay, so you want to
pay someone to do it.
Well, Zach's already alluded to where we're going next. Okay, so it's super important to do that first, is know what you have your control of and what you don't have control of, because so many times we stress over the things we don't have control of, which is really tough. Really tough. And that's what creates the mental health epidemic that we're having currently in the world, with depression, anxiety, all the different bad things that are happening, and especially in the youth. But next thing is time or money, okay? So this is where Zach's alluding to it, is how do you remove it? Okay, some people have the financial means, right? So, I pay a landscaper to come and cut my lawn, and it's awesome because every week, especially in the summer, I show up, it's cut, I feel great. I go out there, I go ground in my grass that's been cut, and it's phenomenal, right? And again, you might not have the funding, but what that means, if say I didn't have the funds to pay someone to cut my grass, then what that essentially I would do is I would go, okay, it's going to take me an hour a week, okay, and I'm going to write that down right on my sheet, and now I know, okay, I'm stressing over this stupid thing that takes an hour a week. Now I just need to implement it I got to just schedule it out. Okay. The next column, and again, as you guys are seeing, this could be done with every single thing. Maybe you have that phone call. Maybe there's that person you were trying to talk to. I always use this example for our young audience out there. Like maybe there's that girl you want to go chat with. Just write it on there. It's a stressor, but how are you going to do it? It takes 2 seconds. Go talk to them. right? For, the moms out there that are super busy right now, I'll tell you right now, write out everything, right? And it's going to be tough, but it's going to allow for you to basically start the process of taking control of a stress budget. And again, why I created what's called a stress budget is from a financial budget. Everyone's different from based on how much money they make, right? And your stress resilience that you have currently, everyone's different in stress. My stress level that I can handle is different than Simon and Shannon's, is different than Zach's, it's different than anybody out there, right? So you can do things like we talked about today to actually start building up your stress resilience, right? Cold showers, heat therapy, meditation, fasting, which we were going to talk about, but we're not going to have time for it today, which I'm sad about. We'll have to do a whole nother chat with Zach in a couple weeks. Yep. But the next column is rating, and this is actually one of my favorite columns, is because I used to work with a lot of college students, okay? And the analogy I use is this, is what if you failed an exam, right? Where would you rank that? So let's just use it. I'm going to use the live people that I'm here with. So Simon and Shannon in college, let's say, Simon, you failed an exam. Where would you rank down that scale from 1 to 100 on a stressor?
Maybe 30.
Okay, I'm impressed. So he's actually lower than most. The average college student. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, and it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Most college students will say 90. Then I say, what if your mom died?
Yeah.
What is that?
100 plus?
It's 100, right?
Yeah.
So how the heck is that 100 and failing an exam a 90?
Yeah.
How?
Right.
How is cutting the grass for me? That's a freaking 1, right? Right? But but that's the reason I'm bringing this up for the people out there, is that so many people put too much power into these little stressors that they matter. Don't get me wrong. That failing an exam is not a great thing, but guess what? You're going to recover from that, okay? So when you put things into perspective on your sheet, you start realizing that it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. And then last step is implementation. How are you going to remove this? So if it's time or money, you just need to go plan it out, and then it just becomes your to-do list now. And this, guys, and again, we don't have a ton of time to go into this, but this is how I've controlled my stress over the last decade, okay? And, and again, this isn't a Matt, all about me here, but basically when you look at my life, where I have two, just like a lot of our families out there, I'm the perfect candidate for our service, and I love it, right? And the reason for that is I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home. Both my wife and I work. My wife's going to med school now and working, right? Wow. And, obviously, an executive here at the company, and, a couple other things I do, on the side as well. And it's just, and then trying to stay healthy, trying to, biohack, all that, especially with what's going on with COVID right now. It's stressful. Okay, so take control of your stress, guys, and use some of the tips that Zach gave today. So I'm going to let Zach kind of close us out. What's the biggest thing that someone can do, Zach, leaving this podcast today that will help them de-stress, live a less stressful life? Like, number one tip you can give, and I know that's hard, but number one tip.
No, I think going back to controlling and seeing what you can control and what you can't control, and acknowledging it. If it's something that's totally out of your control, just let it go. And then again, bringing in meditation, I think, is one of the biggest things that people can do to improve their health, to improve kind of their mental health, their stress, and it's free. It's free.
Awesome. So next week, guys, we're going to wrap up here. I hope this was helpful for people out there. I know we went down a bunch of different holes and rabbit holes here, and the cool part is we're going to do a deep dive over the next year on a lot of these topics and bring in experts, okay, which is really, really cool. But next week, we're pumped. We're having an expert come on, and we're super, super fired up about it. Simon, just remind me Natalie's last name really quick.
Natalie, I'm drawing a blank.
Sorry, guys. So Natalie, we're bringing on. It's my mistake for not writing this down, but Natalie is out in Richmond, and we're super pumped. She owns a company, a fitness company called Fit for Mom. As everyone can imagine, with what's going on in the world right now, with the stress levels of basically, especially as a mom. I'm not a mom, but I know my wife, the stress level she has.
Natalie Russell,
right? So we're pumped to have Natalie next week. She owns a successful fitness company in Richmond. She's an ex-dancer. I'm sure she still dances, but it sounds like she did that professionally. She's a mother, overall just busy woman, and we're excited to have her come on and give all the moms out there and everybody fitness tips that are going to help them through the next last quarter of the year. So all I want everyone to do out there now, though, is this. okay, is I want you to do that activity. Sit down, okay, write out your stress budget, okay, and then I want you to like, share, comment, post, and make sure that anybody out there that you know right now that's stressed out or they need some sort of health kick in the butt sees this podcast. And again, if you want one of our reps to come out and introduce you to our awesome food, but also just realize that behind the scenes, it's not just that we know way more about health and wellness than the average bear. So with that, guys, I'm excited for everyone out there, and let's rock out and kick some butt. So let's do it.